What does that mean for geopolitics?
I mean, the question is, what is the United States going to do?
Yeah, what do we do about it?
For the last month, you've had President Trump essentially saying, I don't want a war, I don't want regime change. Prime Minister Abe was actually in Iran trying to get a diplomatic off-ramp, and then you have a Japanese tanker struck. So the question is...
Bad look.
It's a bad look. The question is, if you're President Trump, are you just going to escalate sanctions, or are we going to have to deploy more military forces to the region, more carriers going to the Gulf? I mean, those are the type of things we have to think about.
We had this, and it's early. The years escape me. What year was it? Late mid-90s, where we literally had U.S. Navy ships escorting oil tankers.
That was the tanker wars during the Iran-Iraq war.
Thank you. The tanker wars. And are we going to be back there again, where a U.S. destroyer is going to have to basically lead a fleet of super tankers through the Straits of Hormuz?
I mean, you had hundreds of ships targeted during the Iran-Iraq war. It was the largest U.S. naval deployment since the Second World War. I mean, we've had 6 tankers struck in a 1-month period. That is pretty extraordinary. I mean, the oil market is shrugging it off. But if this continues, that is what the Fifth Fleet is going to have to do, to secure the sea lanes.
Is there something to be said about the fact that these 2 attacks yesterday were far worse than the 4 ships you referenced a month ago?
No, I mean, I think that is showing escalation. I mean, what we have not seen yet is any tankers sunk. And if you read the after-action review of what happened a month ago, there's a sense that the Iranians opted not to sink the tankers, but to send a warning to the region. The question is, what's next? Do they actually sink a tanker next?
Well, because what they're saying is a month ago, okay, we just dinged them. You didn't pay attention. You didn't seem to care. Now you're going to pay attention. And if we still don't pay attention, then what's next?
Again, that's what's next.
That's when they sink one.
Well,
assuming it is Iran. We got to be fair, Iran has denied it.
Right, Iran has denied it. But it's interesting, you had the Iranian foreign minister early in the week with his German counterpart saying, look, we're not going to be the only ones paying the price for economic warfare. The United States is not going to get off scot-free. So even when the Iranian foreign minister, the moderate, says that, I mean, now they're denying it. But the question is, do we really think the Saudis did it? Do we really think the Saudis would want to do something like this? I mean, the interesting question is, what happened the day before?
Why would they blow up a ship that's not theirs but filled with their own product?
Right, actually had left Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, one of the ships had naphtha from Saudi Arabia.
Right, I mean, one loaded in UAE, one loaded in Saudi. Interestingly enough, we're not focusing on what happened the day before. That's when you had a missile strike a Saudi airport.
Yes.
Like, I'm actually very concerned about actually having a major infrastructure hit in Saudi Arabia. Those are the type of things that also take you very close to the precipice.
Well, listen, oil's spike it led every show on CNBC yesterday, as it should have. But what is maybe now we have to talk about is that, A, there are captains of ships right now in port.
Right.
We've talked to brokers that aren't leaving.
Right.
They're scared. They're sitting fully laden with oil.
Right.
And they're saying, I'm not going because I don't want to die. Also, the cost of shipping is going to spike.
Right.
Because the insurance rates and all these ship owners are now saying, we could get sunk.
Right.
So that's a back-end cost. Forget about the spike in oil. There's other costs.
Right, there are other costs. I mean, also the thing to watch, we keep saying to clients, the date we think you really need to watch now is July 7th. That is the deadline that the Iranians have given the Europeans, essentially saying if we can't sell our oil or do banking transactions, we are going to really restart our nuclear program. And the Director General of the IEA was out warning this week about an Iranian nuclear restart. I think that is the type of move that also further escalates tensions in the region.
So we got to circle July 7th. And also there's just a rising hard line in Iran. And these economic sanctions are actually enabling the hard right to ascend in Iran.
Their view is this is economic warfare aimed at regime change. And they're not going to sit back and let that happen.